what you described with, like, the army of bots and, what these bad actors do to generate collective illusions, I mean, I think that could be classified as, like, psychological warfare. It's just
It's
mass manipulation, and
for
the
sure.
and the effect that that would have on an individual would be that their own actual opinion almost now becomes threatening to their belonging. They feel like,
100.
because I think this, I'm at risk of being rejected, and
Mhm.
so I kind of reconsider what I really think and
Yep.
maybe conform.
It's gonna create cognitive dissonance,
Yep.
and the only way to resolve that dissonance is either to change your behavior or change your belief, and it turns out belief's a lot easier to change in some sense, right? Like,
Yeah,
and not underestimating, I mean, the need to belong is incredibly powerful
yeah,
because I just think of that as a neurological proxy for I'm safe,
yeah,
secure, we can cooperate, I'm gonna be okay. When I don't feel like I belong is
uh,
genuinely dangerous. And
uh,
so there's just not a lot of people who are willing to abandon that sense of belonging for self-expression. There are some
right,
people who have lower thresholds, but most of us are that why? Especially when for most issues, we might have opinions, but we don't have strong opinions.
uh,
Like if it's something that I am passionate about, I'm probably not change I'm gonna keep saying it. If it
right,
you know, but that's just not how most things are. So let's go
mm,
back to something as existential as like the Israeli and Palestinian stuff.
mhm,
Well, look, if you don't live there or you're not an American Jew, it's not really you don't really have a skin in the game, right? So you can have an opinion, but then you think, well, wait a minute. If it's not really affecting me, why would I go against my group? That would affect me.
mhm,
Like, better just tell me what we believe and I'll go along with it because
right,
that's what I want. And so to your earlier point, I think is exactly right. This is psychological warfare and it is shocking the extent of it. So when you're online right now, the research is pretty clear that if only 5% of your interactions are bots and those bots are well designed, they can completely dictate what the consensus is that emerges in the
wow,
interactions.
wow,
Now that's scary. What's even scarier is conservative estimates on social media today is that upwards of 20% of all your interactions are with bots, and you just don't know.
yeah,
So how funny is that? That you're worried because somebody like chides you and responds to you or tells you to say something, and you're like, "Oh no, I'm going against my group," and it's like not even a human being.
right, right, yeah, that's the mechanism right there by which they generate collective illusions.
It's clever, right? Like if you think about it, you could take down a society. I mean, you really could. I mean, you think
Mhm,
about if we're even half right on the extent of how much of our division is just a lie,
mhm,
like because it feels like the wheels fell off of society. If you're like me, like
yeah,
I knew we disagreed on some things, but my goodness, it
yeah,
just seems like this. And when you tie it to belonging and
mhm,
identity, then it becomes super in group, out group in a hurry,
right,
right? Like, it's not just that we're arguing, like we're now to the point where, I mean, researchers call it like affective polarization. We don't even know why we hate each other anymore.
mhm,
And it's like our politics isn't even over policy anymore. It's
yeah,
like the candidates don't even feel like they have to tell you what their policy plays are. It's just like
mhm,
these people are awful. We're good. Vote for me. And
it's
so,
true, that's what
I,
it's
I-
like.
and so I just feel like every time big technologies have come into society, they've always transformed our relationship to ourselves and to our technologies, right? That's true when the first time we went from spoken word to written word,
When
it was like, yeah, it turned out that writing stuff down, like Aristotle was the first print native, right? Like there was there was a huge upside to that technology, but it turned out that only if you acquired a pretty artificial skill called literacy
uh,
that has to be taught was it actually a better trade-off because otherwise it's actually way worse. The
mm,
spoken word is something we all can participate in And elites hoarded that skill arguably till the Reformation. It took like an
Mm,
act of God to democratize that skill, and then we started
right.
getting true societal benefits from it. I think here we are, it's like, listen, y your biology is not equipped to deal with the dynamics of social media, and it's not a technology problem. There's no regulation, no things that's gonna change the fact that you're in a fun house of mirrors now, and without bad actors, it's still gonna be distorted. And so we're gonna have to realize you cannot trust your brain to tell you what your group thinks, even though it will feel like you know. And that's really what science is at bottom, right? It's to get us beyond our biases and what we think the world's like. World sure looks flat, right?
Uh,
It's not. I mean, hate
mhm.
to spoil it for all the flat earthers. It's not. Like,
Spoiler alert.
it's not, but it sure
Right.
looks like it. And
Mm,
so once science can help us overcome our implicit biases around things and how things work and start to trust those new insights, then we can modify behavior and thinking in ways that will be fine. In this case,
mm,
the good news is it's actually relatively straightforward, right? We came up with really important norms and rules that were the basis of liberal society in the first place, like tolerance,
mhm.
right? Like like dignity, like these things that say, you know what, I don't really agree with you, but I'm going to defend your right to be able to speak up. If that's what, if those are, if we continue to support those norms and bolster them, this is a really important way out of this because
Mhm.
when a norm says, if I think, well, what does it mean to be an American or what does it mean to be a Republican or a Democrat? Oh, for sure, I believe in tolerance. For sure, I believe in live and let live. I'm supposed to let Nick talk, even though, boy, I really disagree with your opinion. Um, then that makes the need to belong work in service of this
Yes.
rather than
Right.
against us.
Right. I like that. That's a great point because you are in a way you can communicate to somebody no matter what your views are, your sense of belonging is not at risk here. And perhaps we could even emphasize that um, the real thing that would threaten your belonging to a group is you not being authentic.
That's
And
right.
perhaps
Oh,
what will ensure your belonging more than anything is that you're being real with everybody, that you're saying what you really think.
isn't that great? So this is where I think the social psychology becomes even more important to society. It's always been important, right? Um, but it's really funny. My early work at the university was around the science of individuality, like getting beyond
Okay.
aggregate data and
Mm,
modeling individuals. So that's led to those methods have led to things like wins in personalized medicine and nutrition and
yeah,
education. But one of the
right.
central insights of that individuality is called the context principle, which is you cannot understand an individual's behavior independent of the environment they're operating, and other people make up a substantial portion of that environment. So
Mm,
even as we become better and better understanding individuals on their own terms, it still brings us back to the fact that social psychology matters in a really
yeah,
profound way,
yeah.
um, even if you just want to understand the behavior of individuals.